conservative new media viewers, JLin fans around the world, Charlotte Hornets fans around the world. What's up? It's me, PFE, Paul F. Villarreal, the NBA expert. And I didn't expect to be making this video. And the reason why I say that is I made a video yesterday, which you guys can all check out. I'll put a link to it here right now, about 3 topics around JLin and the Charlotte Hornets. However, usually I will make videos, or we will make videos here at Conservative New Media, as regards JLin and the team he's playing for in 2 instances. One, when I have the time to do it, or when John has the time to do it, my brother. But most importantly, number 2, is when subjects come up. In other words, if something happens to warrant a new discussion, then I'll make a video. And interestingly enough, 3 things have come up since making the video yesterday. And we'll just go through them one by one. The first thing I want to say, the first topic, is something that I read on Twitter. And this is from a couple of different Lin fans. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's something that I can see that a few Lin fans are thinking or feeling. And if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, or you're somebody who's not familiar with the JLin fan base, this might sound a little bit, this might sound too critical. Like, you might think that the fans are too worried about it, and they shouldn't be, or something like this. Well, there's a couple of things I would say about that, just in general. Number 1, many JLin fans are new to basketball, and they're learning how the NBA media works, so on and so forth. And number 2, unfortunately, Jeremy has had a lot of difficulties and challenges in his short career with how he's covered. So in other words, some of these fans, or many of these fans, they've seen it before. So there's almost kind of an expectation that Jeremy's going to be covered unfairly. Now, again, I'm not trying to create a conspiracy theory here or anything like that, but as somebody who is a fan of Jeremy's and who has observed Jeremy's career for the past several years, I get it. I know where this is coming from, and that's why I want to bring it up, to address it a little bit more. So, some fans are starting to feel like Jeremy is getting dissed a little bit in terms of the photos that are coming out from Hornets training camp, and some of the questions and responses that are coming out in the press conferences or the interviews after practices. What do I mean? I mean that people think that, why aren't we seeing more pictures of Jeremy in practice? Why aren't we seeing more pictures of Jeremy shooting the basketball? We seem to see pictures of Jeremy talking with assistant coach Silas a lot. To me, that's not a negative thing. But again, some fans are sensitive about this, and they think, well, maybe Jeremy's being marginalized a little bit. And they don't feel like Jeremy's being discussed after the practices. Like, for example, it could be a question like this to Steve Clifford. Coach, who's doing well out of the new guys that are here? And maybe Coach Clifford doesn't mention JLin, or maybe a reporter doesn't ask about JLin, this type of thing. And here's what I want to say about this. And all 3 of the topics that I'm going to cover in this video today kind of interrelate. And as I did in the last video, I will work to put in timestamps in the video description below the video player, so that if you're only interested in one of 3 of these topics, then you'll have an easy time link that you can just go and look at that part of the video without having to listen to the rest of the video. So, why isn't JLin theoretically getting more publicity or more accolades here early in camp, or better pictures? The thing I'll say about the pictures is this. The media is not let into the practices until there are 30 minutes left in the practice. Okay? So most of what the media is covering, I would imagine, a lot of practice is already over. It could just be individual drills at that point or just individual skill development, anything like that. So I don't know if, sure, they're not taking pictures of JLin shooting free throws or JLin out the three-point line. But I'll talk about it a little bit more in terms of why I think Jeremy's spending more time talking with Stephen Silas right now, or it appears that way anyway from these photos that we have seen. So Jeremy is what I would refer to, and I've talked about this before in previous videos, in the English language, the slang term for how I view Jeremy is quote unquote a gamer. And what a gamer is somebody who, they don't always shine in practice. They don't always look incredible when they're practicing because it's not important, right? It's not, there's no meaning attached to the practice, really. It's not a win or a loss. But when the game comes along, that's when they perform their best. And I think Jeremy, and part of the way that he plays the game, he's more tilted towards that. He's more of a gamer type of a figure than somebody who's a superstar in practice. I think part of that is because of Jeremy's physical attributes. He's not going to jump out of the gym and this type of thing. I think that's part of it, and a lot of it is the way that Jeremy plays. Jeremy is a 5-on-5 type of a player rather than a 1-on-1 type of a player. When Jeremy plays well, it's kind of like the culmination of the team coming together. Okay? And that takes time to develop. And Jeremy's only in his 4th or 5th day now of official training camp. So he's still learning the players, and the players are still learning him, although many of the team did participate in voluntary workouts before training camp began. So there has been a little bit more of a development time. Once more, the 5-on-5 player might not be noticed as much as a great 1-on-1 player. Kemba Walker is an outstanding 1-on-1 player in terms of his ability to make moves and his athleticism. And so your eyes kind of gravitate towards that. And that might be noticed more than somebody who's just kind of going along and doing their thing, which Jeremy might be doing more of in these practices. Okay? As Jeremy is a 5-on-5 player, his success is more dependent, as I mentioned before, on the entire team coming together. So for Jeremy to show his full capabilities might take longer than it would take for somebody with incredible, just natural athletic ability and 1-on-1 capabilities. So if that's the case, then it's not surprising to me that it might take longer, might take a few more weeks or a bit longer until we start hearing more from Jeremy, because Jeremy he has to be in synchronization with his teammates for him to perform at his maximum. He might still be figuring out, who do I work well with on this team in terms of pick and roll? And maybe he's not teamed up with such a player right now. Maybe he's running with the second team and there's nobody on the second team that he really is his Ed Davis from last year, and so on. So my overall take with this is, I understand how people feel. I'm not concerned about it at all. I think this fits Jeremy's profile. Look, before Jeremy broke out in New York in 2011, 2012, does anybody remember hearing that JLin was tearing it up in practice? Because I don't remember hearing that. So I wouldn't worry about that if you're a JLin fan. I wouldn't be concerned about that. Sure, it'd be great if we had reports coming out every day. JLin is dominating in practice. JLin scored 45 points in practice. He's just tearing it up. But the reason why I think you're seeing more pictures or that giving this impression that Jeremy is talking with Coach Silas so much is because I think Jeremy and Coach Silas are working very hard to get Jeremy up to speed. In other words, if Jeremy needs to kind of be tied in mentally with the rest of the team, that's what I think he's working on with Coach Silas, because he respects Coach Silas, because Coach Silas knows the system. Coach Silas has been with the Hornets, obviously longer than JLin has. So for a point guard, you have more responsibility than most of the other players on the court, pretty much than all the other players, especially in running the offense. And so I have no problem with Jeremy trying to get his personal mental CPU locked in on that. And I'm not surprised that it might take a little bit of time, or he's not the shining star in practice, because I just don't think that's a factor. I just don't think that's important. Look, Jeremy, like I said, I can't ever remember a sustained period of time where Jeremy looked incredible in practice, or that there were reports that Jeremy was doing unbelievable in practice. So I wouldn't worry about it. And again, I understand where people are coming from this. I understand it, but just I'm not concerned about it whatsoever. Okay. Topic number two. In listening to all of the interviews and the reports coming out since training camp began, and before that, even in the voluntary workout sessions, and we got different information about those as well, I think it's becoming clear that the Charlotte Hornets have a really special group of players. In other words, I think that the character of this team is really going to be an asset this year. And there's 4 particular qualities, and I put this out on Twitter yesterday, and I just want to say it again here. I think this team is hardworking. I think this team has high character as individuals. I think the people, the individuals on the team seem to have high character themselves. And so you have a lot of different guys on this team that seem to be high character individuals themselves. And so you get a group of guys like that together, and that can be a pretty special thing. I think the team is intelligent. Like, the team seems to be very smart based upon the reports that are coming out. And we're also hearing that this team is very much a self-sacrificing team, an unselfish team. Okay? And I'll go over each of these quickly. The hard-working stuff. What have we heard since voluntary workouts began? I think we heard that 13 players came in early and they went to work right away, and we heard reports that guys were really going after it in their individual workouts. And all of the different players, and remember, they're bringing in something like 8 new players. All of the individual players seemed impressed with the other players' work ethics. I know that Jeremy himself, when he was interviewed on Media Day, one of the interviews said, they asked him, how are you going to lead this team? Or do you think you have to show leadership on this team? And one of the things Jeremy said was, I think he kind of contrasted it with other teams he's been on, and he said something to the effect of, I don't have to say much. It's like, I don't think I have to say much to guys on this team. Guys seem to get it pretty quickly. In other words, on some teams, you have guys that are maybe a little less focused on their workouts, and maybe a little bit just not as dialed in, okay? And that doesn't seem to be the case on this team. And Steve Clifford has said that, Kemba Walker said that, a number of different players have said this. So it seems clear this is a hard-working team. We have heard JLin talk about the way in which different players on this team treat staff members in the organization, how kind that people are, and just that people seem to be really nice and really, they treat people well. And Jeremy said you can learn a lot by how people treat others in terms of how they treat staff and members of the organization. And so, again, we're definitely seeing like there's a lot of high character guys here, guys that get it. And they're kind of, they're kind, they're focused on their jobs. They're not focused on other off-the-court stuff and so forth. Coach Steve Clifford has mentioned, as have other players like Kemba, that the team seems collectively very intelligent, and this shows up in how quickly they are able to internalize the instructions that they're given. How quickly can you learn a new offense? How quickly can you learn a play? How quickly can you learn defensive principles? And everything that we've heard from the camp is that these guys are getting it quickly. We literally went in this training camp. We literally went from there were going to be multiple or 3 or 4 days of 2-a-day practices, meaning you practice twice in the same day, where a couple of days of 2-a-days, I believe, were cut out. And now, today, Wednesday, September 30th, 2015, guys are being given the day off. I mean, guys are being given the day off, and we're only in day 5 of training camp. What that says to me is that the coach and coaching staff knows these guys, they're grasping the concepts quickly, so you can give them more rest, and they're going to work hard. So if you give these guys a day off, they're not going to go out and goof around and waste a day. They're going to do workouts. They're going to prepare their body. They're going to get their rest. So this seems like a responsible team. And that's, I don't want to put down any other teams or any other individuals, but you don't always get that, including in the professional ranks. You'd think that people that are paid to do this, they'd all be like that, but they're not all like that, and the circumstances aren't always that way, or a team isn't properly led, and so they drift away from being focused and disciplined, even if the individuals themselves tend to be that way. That definitely doesn't seem to be the case with this team. And finally, we've heard from Kemba, and I think Jeremy's mentioned it, that the players on the team are very much willing to sacrifice their own games or their own glory for the betterment of the team. I was watching an interview with Kemba yesterday, and he mentioned this about Nick Batum, which is certainly part of Nick Batum's resume. That's part of his that's how he's viewed, as a very much an unselfish type of a player. Jeremy's an unselfish type of a player. We're hearing this more and more. And so what I think we're shaping up to see here, if you're a JLin fan or just a Charlotte fan, this is a very good mixture of individuals. And what can happen when you get individuals that are kind of oriented in this way is that you can get a team that is better than the sum of its parts. And what that means is you might look at this roster and it doesn't really blow you away. You think, they're okay. They're not that great. There's no real super talent on this team. But with these different qualities and characteristics that these individual players seem to have, as well as the coaching staff, that's when you can get a better result than you think you would get based upon the individual pieces of talent. And that's what I'm becoming really optimistic about this as regards to this team. And I think that's something like what the Hornets achieved 2 years ago when they made the playoffs. It seemed like they came together a little bit more than what you would think their talent would have let them do. And so this is good. This is a very good sign. And it reminds me of the second unit, or the unit that JLin played with when he was with the Knicks. Guys like Landry Fields, guys like Tyson Chandler, guys like Jared Jeffries, guys like Steve Novak. These are high-character guys, maybe not the most talented guys in the entire NBA, but these are smart guys. These are guys that sacrificed for one another. These are guys that understood how to play the team game. And that's what I think we're seeing more and more here early on. And I'm really excited for this. I'm excited for it for the team, and I'm excited for it for Jeremy. Because Jeremy does better, according to himself, when he's comfortable, when he kind of finds his own groove. And to be able to do that, it helps to be around people that are similar to you, that are intelligent, that are willing to sacrifice for the team, that understand how to play team basketball rather than just individual basketball or isolation basketball, who work hard. And so I think that this group of players, the way that they're oriented and the way that the coaching staff is oriented, I think that's really going to help Jeremy achieve more this year. And sure, okay, we haven't heard the glowing reports out of practice yet, but not worried about that. I think that I like the way that this sets up for Jeremy and for the team. Now, topic number 3, and I want to thank Luke McMahon for alerting me to this on Twitter. Wes Johnson, who is now a member of the Los Angeles Clippers, came out in an interview in the last day or two, and I put it out on Twitter, so you can go and check that out. It's in the Orange County Register, I believe, written by Bill Oram. He was a member of the Lakers for the previous 2 seasons, 2014, 2015, 2013, 2014. So he was there for the last year of D'Antoni, and he was there for the first year of Byron Scott. And what Wes Johnson, to paraphrase what Wes Johnson said in this article, he basically implied that the Lakers last year under Byron Scott were playing selfishly. Guys playing for themselves, or guys playing to prove how great they were individually. And Wes also said, or implied, that there was a confusion among the team because guys were playing for themselves rather than playing for the team. It disrupted the flow and the chemistry of the team. And again, in a circumstance like that, that is when I think somebody like JLin is going to be the most hurt as compared with somebody like Kobe. Kobe has a certain skill set and a certain mindset where he's like, he doesn't care what anybody's doing. He's going to do his thing. And he's got the skill set and the ability level where he has had throughout his career where it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. He's still going to put up 20 shots. He's going to score 25 points a game. No matter what anybody thinks, no matter what the team is doing, no matter if the team is high character or low character, it doesn't matter. It's kind of like he's just the eye in the storm. It doesn't make any difference. But Jeremy's not like that. Admittedly, self-admittedly, he isn't like that. And many guys are not like that. I think Wes Johnson kind of gives the impression that he's not like that. In other words, if there was more leadership or structure or teamwork with the Lakers in 2014, 2015, then maybe I, Wes Johnson, would have done better in a circumstance like that. And I think that applies to JLin as well. I don't want to spend a lot of time rehashing the past. Oh, see, we told you the Lakers were a mess last year. We told you JLin haters this. But this does provide some more information and context into what was going on for the Lakers last season. And JLin, of course, was part of that mix. And I think that the characterization of how the Lakers were last year, I think there's some of that also applied to Jeremy's 2 years in Houston. I'm not going to sit there. I'm not saying that Houston 3 and 2 years ago was as disorganized and apparently selfish as the Lakers were last season, but I do think there were elements of that. in terms of guys wanting to just do their own thing, prove their own mettle as compared with working within the team. Maybe not the best leadership at the top in terms of the coach, this type of thing. And I think all of that negativity or bad influences is not the case on the 2015 and 2016 Charlotte Hornets. I think you have clear leadership on the team. I think you have a good group of guys, a unselfish group of guys, and guys who are focused on what is best for the team. And so, like I said, there are three different topics in this video, and I think they all go together. Number one, is JLin being dissed at practice or by the media? No, I don't think he is. I think he's kind of going in the caterpillar to butterfly stage because this is the way JLin plays the game. He needs to kind of germinate and hibernate a little bit before he can kind of show what he can do with a new team. And my guess is that that's what he's working on with Stephen Silas and just with the rest of the team. So I wouldn't worry about that. The character, the high character of the Charlotte Hornets, or what we can tell of it, 2015-2016 edition, should help JLin to become and show the best version of himself. So, look, if Jeremy was in Houston or Jeremy was in Los Angeles, and maybe he's not getting all the accolades or the media's not pumping him up at the start of training camp, then maybe you are concerned. And it's like, oh no, this is like Houston year 2. They're phasing him out. They're setting up the story so that Jeremy's going to be demoted and Patrick Beverley's going to be the starter. For those of you Charlotte fans that don't know the history of JLin with the Rockets, this is a quick recount of this, and it wasn't handled well. It wasn't handled well by the team, in my opinion, and it wasn't handled well by the media. But this is a different situation. I don't think there's I think the Hornets are more competent, and I think they're more supportive of JLin. So I don't think we're heading to that, and I think we're not heading to that because this team has better leadership and higher character individuals all the way from the top of the organization down to the players. Finally, Wes Johnson talking about the Lakers last year kind of gives you an idea of why things might have been difficult for JLin. The team did not seem focused on the team concept in terms of how do we play together and play as a unified group in the modern NBA. And I think there's various reasons for that. You can talk about Kobe. You can talk about Byron Scott. You can talk about the team seemed to be tanking, maybe wasn't interested in maximizing its winning capabilities. But that these things come back to JLin as well. He's not in that situation anymore. He's in a better situation. Charlotte is not trying to tank. And he seems to have more support and a coaching staff that has a better grasp of what works in today's NBA rather than perhaps concepts that are outdated or perhaps building around one superstar who's fading away. And it might not be the best situation or the best idea to build around that player anymore. So that is it. Look, I didn't intend to make this video, but I'm glad I got a chance to make it. All signs are positive right now for the Hornets and for JLin. And I'm very content with what is coming out of the media right now. I love what I'm seeing in terms of how this group of young men seems to be on the Hornets roster. And I'm not surprised at what Wes Johnson said about how things were supposedly, in his view, on the 2014-2015 Lakers. Let me just say one final thing as regards media people and doubters and haters. And look, as much as anybody, I've come after those people in the past because it's incredibly frustrating to me personally. And I know it's frustrating for a lot of J-Lin fans to see him just some of the absurdity of the media and the coverage. I'm really going to try to just kind of back off of that this year. Just try to be more positive and less confrontational to certain people. What you have to understand is that many of the people who cover the NBA, including people who cover it every single day, they can't know everything. So because they are not able to get their own firsthand experience with some of these players and watch their clips and watch their games, unfortunately, they rely on narratives. They rely on the conventional wisdom. And there are certain pieces of conventional wisdom that have attached themselves to J-Lin. I think unfairly. Of course, the defense issue or supposed issue, some of these other things, he's not as competitive as Patrick Beverley and these types of things. But I don't think that the media reporters, a lot of the times, I don't think this is malicious. It's just they can't know everything. They simply don't have the facility to know every piece of information. Now, there have been malicious people, I believe, in the past who had particular agendas and were working to marginalize J-Lin, and we've discussed those people in the past. However, I have not personally seen anybody associated with the Charlotte media who falls into that camp. And even the national media types, people who don't cover a particular team, but they cover the league. I can't think of anybody right now who's kind of on a rampage, so to speak, to put down J-Lin. So I feel personally I'm just ready to kind of let go of that fight a little bit and just kind of be like, okay, you know what? Let's turn the page here, fresh start, and let's go from here. And because I am very optimistic about how this can go. And it's a lot easier to let go of the fight when you think you're stepping into a better situation. And I think that Jeremy is stepping into a better situation now. And so we can finally we don't have to fight that fight every single day. And really, when it all comes down to it, anyways, it doesn't matter what anybody says. And I know Jeremy himself was asked at Media Day this year, do you get more motivation? Do you feel more motivation because of what happened in Los Angeles? Or I think that was the question. And Jeremy was like, nah, I'm motivated no matter what. And so Jeremy himself has personally grown from trying to use negative motivation to where it's like, you know what? That just wastes energy. I'm just gonna play like nobody has ever said anything. And I think that's the proper approach for Jeremy. And I also think it's a good approach for his fans. Look, if something truly outrageous is written or said, then we'll take it from there. I mean, there was something that was written. I'm not going to say it specifically right now. There was something that was written at the beginning of last year that I thought was irresponsible and wrong. And I know I made a big thing about it. It really offended me personally. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. And, if it comes up, then we'll deal with it then. But for now, just going to try to be more positive and just kind of let it go more so. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. That's just my own personal philosophy and how I'm going to try to approach things more this year. And, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to things. Look, we're 3 days away now from the first preseason game, which I believe is against the Orlando Magic. Great. We're going to have new data, new information, new situation. I'm not the least bit concerned about if Jeremy's starting or is he going to overtake Kemba or any of this stuff. Just let's get him out there. Let's play. Let's get the team going. Cool. Jeremy seems like he's feeling good. He thinks Charlotte's low-key and that it fits in well. I think that fits well with his personality. So let's just let the chips fall where they are and let Jeremy go out and play. Let the team go out and play. And I think things are going to work out pretty well for him and for them. Okay, that's it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Excuse me. I got the hiccups or something here. Your comments below. Again, just these 3 topics came up between making the video yesterday and right now, so I just figured I addressed them here. It's easier for me to do this than to try to do it on Twitter. It's also, I prefer this format as opposed to writing just because it's easier to do this. It's easier to speak for me rather than to write. So that's why I make the videos rather than writing a lot, though I write when I have the chance. I hope you guys are feeling as optimistic as I am. Hopefully we will get some information about Jeremy in practice soon, but I wouldn't worry about it even if we don't hear whatever glowing praises of him. I just can't wait. Again, I can't wait. 3 days until the first training camp. There's an issue too. I think it's Tropical Storm Joaquin. That could be hitting North Carolina in the next few days. I hope certainly hope everybody's safe down there. And I don't know if it's possible that might have some disruption with the first preseason game. I don't know if that's in Charlotte or Orlando, or hopefully it does not. So that's it for now. Take care. Look for you on Twitter, and we'll look for you in the comments below the video.